There's a time to learn and there's a time to fight. And this episode is all about explaining the difference. I think it's really important to be curious in this world and to listen to other viewpoints, to have discussions purely for the sake of learning and listening. And that's great. But sometimes I feel like we get out of balance a little bit and we forget that sometimes when it comes to the things that matter, when it comes to justice, someone has to be right. I'm going to say it again. When it comes to the things that matter and when it comes to justice, someone has to be right. And I'm not talking about being pig-headed, right? I'm talking about being lion-hearted. I'm not talking about charging in with your opinion and knocking people down and refusing to listen to any outside views. I'm talking about convictions. I'm talking about the things that you know in your heart are right. You know they're powerful and you know you're supposed to be a powerful vessel for making change. Positive change. That's what I'm talking about. And it's okay to be right. And it's okay to accept that sometimes people are right. People need to be right to move the needle. We have to have clarity to move the needle, to progress, to move forward, to come out of dark, tragic, unjust times. We've got to listen to those with conviction, just as we've done in the past. We've done it before. There's a reason Martin Luther King Day is a holiday, right? That man spoke with conviction. He didn't back up and say, you know what, actually, I hear what you're saying. Segregation is a good idea. Yeah, let's continue it. Or, yeah, we could continue it this long. Let's give it another fiscal year and see how it goes. No. That man was right. Segregation needed to end. True equality was long overdue. Should have been a thing in the first place. So this episode is for the warriors. This episode is for those who need to listen to the warriors. Who in your life right now is speaking with conviction? Who's saying something that maybe nobody's said before, but you have a sense that, you know what? Even though it doesn't, I don't know how they're going to make it work, I think they're right. Now, this is a bonus episode because as I told you before, I'm going to sprinkle in some bonus ones along with the new ones every Friday. And this one's kind of meant to go hand in hand with my previous one, The Power of Uncertainty. In that episode, I talk about how we need to get back into our imaginations. We need to trust our right brain a little bit more. We need to trust our souls a little bit more. And I talked about the left brain and how following that too closely, just the logic train often prevents us from accessing some of the most powerful parts of who we are. So for sure, go back and listen to that one first if you haven't, and then join me in this one. But either way, I'm glad you're here. So if you're hooked and you want to stick around, definitely stick around. But when you get a minute, go check that one out. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to continue to explain the difference between fighting for a just cause and maybe just what discussion looks like, but also why we have to be willing to fight. And if you are someone who is out there and you're a fighter, I want to lift you up. I want to let you know that you're not alone, and I want to encourage you to keep going. I have a couple of my own stories. I have a couple examples, and I hope it's all going to be helpful for you. But before I explain causes that are worth fighting for, I'm going to say what I don't mean first. And I hope you hear me on this. When I speak of the fight and conviction and passion, that absolutely does not include anything that snatches another human being's rights away. That's not conviction. That's called discrimination and hatred. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a modern day example because why not? If you think that trans folks don't deserve access to health care, that's not conviction, that's discrimination. Okay? So everything that I'm talking about with these convictions and passions, I'm talking about fights for human rights. I'm talking about justice. I'm talking about progress. I'm even talking about art. inventions. I'm talking about humanity's best, not humanity's worst, okay? Because if you have, a strong feeling about who should have rights and who shouldn't, that's not new. That's not conviction. People have been engaging in that bullshit for a long time. And instead of a microphone, you need a mirror. You need to take a long look at yourself and where that hate came from and go ahead and dismiss it. And get to know your imagination a little bit. Get to know yourself. It's a lot harder to hate people when you start to love yourself. So I had to get that out of the way because I don't want people to misunderstand me and think that any kind of hatred or denial of another human's rights is a cause worth fighting for, because it's absolutely not. And to illustrate more of what I mean, I'm going to take you back to 18-year-old Jenna. I probably referenced, excuse me, like I said, still getting over that cold. It takes me a long time. So I apologize for the seal that's randomly appearing in this episode. Okay, so to back up, join me on a journey to 18-year-old Jenna, and I've probably referenced to this story before because it kind of created a core moment, a core memory for me. It fucked me up when it comes to the kind of love that I deserve. If you listen to my recent episodes, you would have heard me say that I, from a young age, and I'm talking like college years, learned that if I was too outspoken, I was not worthy of love. If I spoke the truth, I was going to be outcasted. And I had my first experience with that. Well, not my first, no. One of the biggest ones was when I was 18 years old. And here's the kicker, actually. Here's the kicker. I think a lot of the people who try to silence the warriors or who try to tell the people fighting for justice that they're wrong, it's not necessarily the internet creeps, although they're certainly out there. More often than not, the ones that do the most damage are our circle, right? Our friends, our family, our social group. They tend to be the ones, even if they don't mean to, and sometimes they do, who silence us the most. In my case, at 18 years old, it was my friends. And I didn't really know anyone when I went to college. I mean, there were a couple acquaintances here and there, but like I did the thing my freshman year where I didn't know my roommate. I didn't really know anybody in my dorm. And I lived in a co-ed dorm, but like separate wings, right? It's a Christian school. So obviously the boys and the girls are going to be separated. But there were occasional times where we could literally meet in the middle in the lounge. But again, visiting hours, and I want to say on weekends it was actually unlimited. Like you could actually be in the lounge with the opposite sex all night, but again, very public. Otherwise there were, different times. So you could be in this kind of common area all night on weekends. And I had made some friends in college and it was really, really exciting, right? It's like, it's a crazy experience, it's like your first time out of the house and you're like, holy shit, I live with my friends. I work and go to school in the same place. Everything I eat in the same, like everything is just here. This is cool. And it was really exciting. And I made some what I thought were pretty good friends. And there was one night where we were having a discussion in the lounge until like 2 a.m. because it got heated. And to give you a little background, like I was raised Christian, that, but there were always certain things that did not sit well with me. And sexism is a big one. And I don't even know how it came up, but I was in the lounge with one of my female friends and then 3 of my new male friends who all lived in my dorm. And they started talking about women and got into this detailed, heated discussion about how men are always the head of the household. Men are always leaders. Women submit to men. Like, yeah, they can have their voice here and there, but the man has the final say. Men are meant to be in charge. And then the 3 of them proceeded to quote all kinds of Bible verses at me that did indeed prove just that. And I was 18. I was trying to make my point. I was trying to actually fight with the heart, which they did not understand. I tried to actually glean empathy but I wasn't getting it. And I said things like, well, how would you feel if someone told you you couldn't be a leader? And they didn't even want to go. It was just like, like they didn't say this because they weren't that big of dicks, you know, because they were my friends. But it was like, well, I mean, I'm a guy, so that's not my problem. I don't have to think like that, right? Isn't that the biggest issue with privilege? Unless it affects you, you can ignore it. You don't have to think about how painful that is, and you don't want to, because deep down, and I know this now, you know that it's wrong, you know that it sucks, but you don't have to go there because it works for you, so you don't. That's what happened in this conversation. I kept trying to fight with the heart. I kept trying to get empathy, and I kept trying to give different examples of where women were strong, but these boys kept fighting me with the left brain. And of course they used that against me too. Now, when I say fought me with the left brain, you know exactly what I mean. Anybody ever try to logic you to death, right? They try to fight you with A plus B mentality. You'll be trying to make this impassioned argument, and they're like, well, yeah, but what about Romans 3:12? And I don't even know what that is. I can't remember. But and they'll reference things. And if not the Bible, you know what else I mean. Like they'll try to give you some mathematical formula. They'll try to give you some ridiculous logical explanation why. They'll fight you with the left brain. And they'll use it against you. It instantly becomes a, see, I know more. I was able to reference more, so I know more. I left that lounge in tears, and I'm going to tell you why. They knew the Bible better than I did, especially the parts of the Bible that served them, right? And they had the benefit of a patriarchal, setting to back them up. Now, many of the professors at my school were a little bit more open-minded, but most of the campus population shared their viewpoint of men are the head of the family. Men have the final say in every decision. Men are leaders, women follow. They can have their voice on the side, but they ultimately follow. So I left, and the thing that killed me the most is my female friend supported them. She was arguing against me too. And she was the best female friend that I had made at college. So I was shocked, hurt, and heartbroken because I'm like, what the hell, bro? You got a vagina too. Why aren't you on my side? Why are you okay with them saying these things, that we can't be leaders, that we are not the head of the family just because of how we were born? And I tried that argument too. Like, what makes me different than you, oh holy man? That I have different parts? Like, what the fuck is so different that I can't be but it just, any empathetic approach was not working. And it didn't work with her. She kind of just kept saying, well, Jenna, yeah, it's like that in my family. And that's the reality of it. They're guys. Oof. You ever heard that? They're guys. It's just, it is what it is. And then they'll give you a little consolation prize of, but come on. We know who's in charge, don't we? We don't need the title. Yes, we goddamn do need the title. We deserve the title. We deserve to be called leaders. We don't need to rule from the shadows, okay? I can say this very clearly and confidently now as a 37-year-old woman. But when I was 18, I was in tears. I left that lounge in tears, and I went down to the bathroom, and I specifically remember how awful I looked. My eyes were bloodshot, and it was 2 a.m., so that didn't help. I was sobbing, just sobbing. And sure, part of it was because my friends hurt me. I didn't realize when I met them, and they were new friends, right? We were only a few months in. I didn't realize when I met them that, they had these deep-seated sexist beliefs. And believe it or not, I didn't know that going to a Christian college meant I would be told I couldn't be a leader. I thought I was just going to find Jesus. I had no idea how sexist it actually was. And I remember my female friend came to the bathroom because the boys, they obviously couldn't follow me there anyway, but she came in and attempted to comfort me. But I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a fucking thing she said because it was probably all bullshit, right? It was probably some, half-ass attempt at, I'm sorry, but I don't even remember because it didn't help. And I walked away from that conversation feeling like I was wrong, but knowing I wasn't. I knew I wasn't wrong. I knew that I was right. That the family system isn't supposed to have one above the other, one that always has the final say. It's supposed to be whatever works for each family, but at the end of the day, it's equality. And women should not be stripped of the title leader. I knew I was right. And again, I'm 37, I was 18 at the time. It's really not all that long ago. And I think we know, especially given whose faces we see in power now, and the fact that we just can't get a motherfucking female president elected, I think we know who still holds the power, right? I knew I was right, but I couldn't prove it. And they logicked me out of my opinion. This is where that right brain stuff comes in. Convictions don't come from the left brain. Martin Luther King Jr., in his I Have a Dream speech, was not speaking from his left brain. He was channeling his imagination. He was channeling his spirit. All that comes in from the other side. The things that actually move people come from the heart, but they're not so easily proven and they're not so easily controlled. And people will often try to use logical evidence to shut you up. But I would argue that the heart is evidence, that human beings are meant to live on conviction. Here's the crazy thing. Here's the wild thing. These patriarchal assholes who are pushing these opinions believe in a God that they technically can't see. So many people who try to logic you out of things believe in that same God that they can't see. Yet they don't trust your imagination. They don't trust the spirit that you have inside of you. That night taught me a couple things. Like I said, I knew that I was right, but I didn't know how to prove it. I also was conflicted because I didn't want to lose my friends, and so I kind of put a muzzle on myself for the next 4 years. I didn't stop learning for myself. I didn't change how I felt, but I just kind of muzzled myself because it was like, well, this feels shitty. I don't want to cry in the bathroom every night, and I don't want to be made to feel an inch tall because I can't logic them back. And so I held closely to my beliefs, though. I kept them in my heart. I studied and stayed close to my female professors who were a little bit more liberal, a little bit more outspoken, a little bit more progressive. And I used them as an example for myself. I kind of had this quiet battle that I was fighting where it's like, okay, I'm not wasting my energy on these dicks anymore. But occasionally I couldn't stop because I am a fighter. It would come out sometimes. And that's where the fun label of feminist came from. And it wasn't strangers who called me this, it was my friends. And I've probably said this before, but one of my friend's boyfriends, I still remember it, made a quote-unquote joke to me, but he was like, hey, Jenna, when you hang out with your boyfriend, who spoons who? They belittled these strong convictions that I had about women leading. And this was in 2006, 2007, okay? It really wasn't that long ago. And it pissed me off, but I kind of just went, okay, whatever, And like I said, in that moment, clung to my female professors, clung to my beliefs, but I kept them quiet. Well, as I got older, I started learning about more, right? I started learning about more issues related to human rights and intentionally put myself in a situation where, number one, I could learn about people who are different from me, and number two, where I could learn from people who actually believed that everyone, including women, deserved equal rights. So I went to grad school at a place that was a little bit more open-minded in St. Paul, at a place where I'm like, okay, hey, this is almost an all-female school. I bet they believe in women here. So I made the choice to put myself somewhere where I knew I'd be a little bit more supported. And that's actually my first suggestion to you. So for those of you who are fighters, you have a conviction. You know in your heart that something is right and you need to fight for it. There are always people who will support you. Sometimes those people are in books. Sometimes it's the quiet person in the meeting, but they're out there. So if you're in a place where you need to feel supported, sometimes it can just be a matter of changing directions, looking in a different place for that support. So that helped a lot. That's the maybe more practical part that this is all practical, but that's the maybe more obvious thing that you could do if you're in a position where you're trying to fight for something. There are other people out there who want it too and who will support you. Again, sometimes you just have to look in books. You have to look to, the quiet person who you maybe wouldn't have seen before, but maybe the reason they're quiet is because they're misunderstood too. Now I'm going to move more to the spiritual part of this, right? The part where it's like, you're a fighter if. As I got older, there were a couple personal things that happened to me, and it involved my kids, so I'm not going to go into detail, but where people, and again, these people are family and friends, were telling me, Jenna, you can't win. This isn't going to work. I can't even begin to tell you the number of people who inserted their very unwanted opinions on it. People who actually didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. But when those mouths are your family, you listen. And in some of these cases, I was still pretty young. I was in my mid-20s, and I had people telling me to quit fighting. I had people with all these left brain reasons why I should stop. And lately I've been thinking about, because there's certain things I've been fighting for lately, right? And it's like, I still struggle with the same things. I still struggle with feeling misunderstood. I'm better at finding support, but I still often feel like, why doesn't anyone fight as hard as me? Why isn't anyone as mad as me? Why isn't anyone as bothered as me? Because not everyone's a warrior. Not everybody has that spirit. And it is an absolute gift. Because I'm going to tell you, those of us who know how to fight know how to win. And we taste victories for ourselves and those we love and for the world that most people will never know. So if you're a lion like me, if you're loud like me, if you're outspoken like me, and if you believe in something you can't prove like me, keep fighting. You will know victory. And I can tell you, I have known victory. The very things that people said, Jenna, you can't win. I fucking won. I've been looking at my life lately going, you know what? I've actually won quite a bit. And I'm not talking about selfish things. I'm talking about things I had conviction about. Things that I was fighting for when everybody told me no. Things I had to find my own resources for because they're out there. Just know, if your immediate circle isn't going to support you in your fight, there are resources that you can find. Sit quietly with yourself and ask where to look, because you'll get that answer. When I was in my 20s and then again in my early 30s, I pulled together resources to get me to my victory. And I fought for something because I knew it was the right thing to do. I was in my imagination. I was in my heart. And it was like, nope, this is wrong. This is dangerous. I can't give in. Don't give in. Because here's a secret from the universe. The universe doesn't move like the language of commerce. The universe moves in spirit. The universe moves like the wind. There are powerful forces supporting you. Beams of light breaking through all the darkness to guide your path to the same victories that I've tasted. And maybe now is the time that we need to hear it more than ever. So whatever your conviction is, maybe you just want all human beings to have rights. Maybe you just want an art center in your town, in your very sports-obsessed town. Maybe you want to build an art center. Maybe you want to advocate for more fair prices for daycare at your business, or just whatever it is. Whatever your conviction is, if you know that you're fighting for the betterment of yourself, your family, and others, keep fighting. And if you feel like no one fights as hard as you, remember that it's a gift. I want to show you again the episode or the picture of the shadow, and I'm going to put it on this episode's like icon picture, because I am so grateful to the spirit that appeared in that photo. Because I'm going to say again, I have not seen many photos like that. Like I said, how many ghost hunter shows and things do you watch where like they're looking for maybe a tiny little something? I have never seen a photo where there's this spirit covering half of someone's face. And again, you can look at that photo and go, that's haunting. But I was not afraid in that photo. I was experiencing incredible peace. I was sitting quietly in that photo. I wasn't ghost hunting. I was sitting quietly at the Boynton Canyon vortex, meditating and talking with a gentle spirit. And that spirit told me that my imagination, my right brain, because you can see my right brain is blocked, the right side of my face is blocked in that photo. And that was the spirit telling me, hey, you've been drowned out a little bit. You've been told not to listen. Listen. I think the spirits appeared in that photo for me to prove that they're real. And they're here to help. There's powerful forces of light that move in the world too, and you can find all kinds of books on it. William Bloom is a great author to check out if you want to find out about the light spirits that are working in your lives. And before you go thinking I'm too crazy, again, how many people believe in the Christian God and angels and things like that? Just because I have actual proof, that a spirit, speaking of proofs, a spirit appeared in a photo, like, that doesn't make me crazy. See how I feel like I have to justify myself still? But my point is this. Just because something you're fighting for, you don't have tangible evidence yet, doesn't mean that it's not real. Doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be fought for. Because guess what? All great things started with a vision. A vision. Something that appeared in someone's imagination. Even some of the great businesses we have started with a vision. Did you know that Zuckerberg went to a monastery and meditated when it came to Facebook? Now, obviously, Facebook has become something else since then, but all great things start with a vision. Books, movies, TV shows, video games, all of those things came from someone's mind. They didn't come from logic. Maybe certain logic, because I don't want to dismiss the left brain. We need both sides, right? We're just in a very left brain dominant culture right now. But although we need those formulas to sometimes make things happen, it starts on the other side. It starts in the imagination. Just because you can't prove your conviction yet doesn't mean it's not real. And it's okay to be right. It's okay to be right in your family too. Maybe someone you love is struggling with addiction. Imagine telling an alcoholic, yeah, I see your viewpoint. It's okay to drink sometimes. No. There's a place for open-minded discussion, and there's a place to be like, no, you need to get help. Maybe it's not something severe, but maybe someone you love is not living up to their full potential. I believe that love is fighting for people, telling them, hey, I think you're missing something here. It's okay to be right. Sometimes we need to be right. And it's okay if you are the one who's right. Do it in a lion-hearted way, not a pig-hearted way. Right? Don't just charge in there and knock people down and stick to something shitty just because you don't feel like backing down. There's a big difference. When you are fighting for someone you love, you're not doing it, and I'm telling you this from direct experience. When I've had to say hard things to people I love because I'm fighting for them, it's not coming from a place of, I have to get the upper hand here. I have to save face. No, it's coming from a place of, I need him to hear this, or I need her to hear this because we're going to be disconnected if they don't. I need him to hear this because I can see that he's disconnected from himself. I just want him to be whole again. I need her to hear this because I just want her to be whole again. I need this country to hear it because I just want us to be whole again. That's what conviction sounds like when you're fighting for the betterment of somebody. The pig-headed thing is like, I need to get the upper hand, or I need to save face. I need to keep pushing this because I can't admit I'm wrong now. That's different. So if you're out there today and you're someone with conviction, I want to encourage you to keep fighting. And it's okay to be right. People have to be right. Otherwise, we would have no justice. We would have no progress. At some point, there just has to be truth. And if you're someone who's bearing that truth today, keep holding on to it. Keep listening to the light that guides you. Trust your convictions. You know, part of the reason I brought up spirits is because I don't believe I'm alone in what I'm fighting for. I believe there are powerful light spirits that guard this earth, that guard the precious things of this earth. And in that vein, I have to honor the spirit of Bell Rock. I talked about the Boynton Canyon vortex a little bit because that's where I took that shadow picture. But I got the inspiration from this episode, actually, from the Bell Rock spirit. Because when I went to Bell Rock and I meditated there, it's another vortex in Sedona, by the way. The main words I got were, Jenna, fight like you. And then I got a vision of some of the past things that I'm ashamed of, right? Bad relationships or situations that I had to fight my way out of. But I also got visions of that college bathroom. All these visions of times where I was trying to fight for justice or fight for love, and I was told that I was wrong, but I knew I was right, and I kept going. I didn't keep going perfectly because I don't think the world needs perfection. I think perfection is actually our problem. I kept going, honestly. I struggled, but I kept fighting. Sometimes my fight meant, okay, I'm going to go quiet for a little bit, but I'm going to cling to the people who represent who I want to be. And then I got loud again. Now I can proudly say, yeah, I'm a feminist. And? Because think about how ridiculous this is now that we're a little bit more progressed. Think about how ridiculous someone sounds when they say, I don't think women should be leaders. They sound ridiculous, right? But back then, I was the one who sounded ridiculous. Eventually, the world catches up, okay? That's the thing about these convictions about when it comes to human rights and love. Because of the people who fight and bring these issues into light, eventually the world catches up and it becomes commonplace. It just becomes the way it is. I know it can be hard right now to see the justice that's been done, right? And obviously we still have a long way to go. Racism is still out there. Sexism is still out there. Obviously homophobia is still out there. But think about how ridiculous someone would sound right now if they tried to bring back slavery, right? It's ridiculous. It's a crime at this point. But it used to be the norm. It took someone with conviction standing up. You know that I'm reading Mo Gaudat's Scary Smart book right now? And I learned something from that book. Actually researched. So for all the left brainers out there, here's a research reference. Most of the world's change has come from small groups of people. Most of the world's change has come from small groups of people. People like you who fight even though the world can't see your vision yet. But I'm going to tell you this, there's a reason that vision was given to you. That's a divine vision that only you are strong enough to carry out. So don't give up on yourself, and don't give up on the world, even if people are telling you you're wrong. Get quiet with yourself and listen. The next steps and the truth will be there. Get quiet with yourself and listen. The next step and the truth will be there. Keep fighting. I believe in you, just as I believe in myself. And let me tell you, I spend a lot of quiet time hugging that little 18-year-old girl who was crying in that bathroom. That's a good practice too. Go back in your mind and hug that girl, that boy, that person who was told they were wrong, who was maybe even harmed because people didn't want to support their justice or their vision. Give them a hug in your mind and tell them they were right and keep fighting. I promise it's powerfully healing. I believe in you. I believe in the power you have to change this world, and I hope you do too. And in the meantime, thanks for coming.